Hey, good morning, Bulldog Nation. It's good to see you again. It's Tuesday, the 28th of April. One more month is almost done, one more month closer. Hey, I'm excited to share what I'm going to talk about today because I think it might be useful. I want to talk about stress, anxiety, and conflict. And I don't know if any of you in your families or your households or the people you're living with are experiencing some stress, anxiety, or conflict. I'm going to bet at this point that we are, okay? I want to share a model that I learned a million years, literally back in the 90s sometime, from this lady named Harriet Lerner, Lerner. Dr. Lerner is a family therapist who she's written many books, Dance of Anger, Dance of Intimacy, Dance of Deception. She wrote Marriage Rules, which I'm going to get because I'd like to know what the rules are for marriage. And I'm just joking, I have a wonderful marriage, so on and so forth. Hey, many years ago in the 90s, I had a chance to hear Dr. Lerner speak, and she talked about 5 different ways that people tend to manage stress, anxiety, and conflict. Okay, let's define stress, anxiety, and conflict real quick. One way to look at stress is an increased sense of pressure and anxiety related to a decreased sense of control. It's that feeling we get when things are happening that we don't think that we can control. Stress. Anxiety, the best definition of anxiety I ever heard is it's a feeling that hasn't been labeled yet. It's that sense that something's wrong, but you're not really sure what it is. And then conflict. The best definition of conflict I ever heard was conflict is a difference in the thoughts, wants, needs, or beliefs of 2 or more people. When you look at conflict that way, it's inevitable. Anytime humans are together, there's a huge chance there's going to be a degree of conflict defined by a difference in the thoughts, wants, needs, or beliefs, right? Let me share Dr. Lerner's model and you guys see what you think about it. I put it on a continuum. I'm not sure that she did, but I did, and I think it kind of works. So don't hold Dr. Lerner to this continuum. I think there's a continuum based on Lerner's work that goes from people who tend to be more introverted and internal processing people to people who tend to be more extroverted and externally processing people. And here's the way it goes. On this far end, you have distancers. Distancers are people who, when stress, anxiety, and conflict escalate, tend to want to pull away and go within themselves to figure things out and decide what they're going to do and how they're going to re-engage and then re-engage. Distancers. Nothing wrong with being a distancer. Unless you let that distancing go too far and it becomes denial or avoidance of the conflict, then that would be a problem. Distancers. One step in from distancers are underfunctioners. Underfunctioners are people who will hang with a conflict, but they kind of feel themselves crumbling as they're being there. They hang with the conflict, but inside it feels kind of shaky. Nothing wrong with being an underfunctioner as long as you realize there'll come a point where you need to step out, regroup, and then re-engage, okay? In the middle are pursuers. Pursuers are people who, as the stress, anxiety, and conflict escalates, they don't even care about the issue anymore. They just want to make sure everybody's okay and that relationships stay intact. Obviously, nothing wrong with being a pursuer. Maintaining relationships is a good thing. However, if maintaining that sense that relationships are together keeps you from avoiding things that need to be addressed, obviously a problem. Distancers, underfunctioners, pursuers, and then overfunctioners. Overfunctioners are people who, the more stress, anxiety, and conflict escalate, the harder they work and they just bear down and drill into things. Nothing wrong with being an overfunctioner. Putting that energy into a problem can be a real positive thing until you start spinning your wheels. It's like if your car's stuck in the mud or the snow and you just floor that thing, you're not going to get anywhere. So nothing wrong with being an overfunctioner as long as your work is productive, right? Finally are blamers. Blamers are people who, when stress, anxiety, and conflict escalate, they just want to know who the heck's fault it is and get that person in there to fix it. Again, Nothing wrong with being a blamer. Accountability and responsibility are good things. However, if that's all you do, people are going to get tired of you pretty quick. So here you have this continuum. Distancers, underfunctioners, pursuers, overfunctioners, and blamers. Here's how this model might be useful. Number one, to know yourself, to know your own style. I have come to learn over the years that I am an overfunctioning blamer. When things get rough, by gosh, I dig in, and I want to make sure everybody else is too. Okay, tea garden, take a breath. I need to realize that there comes a point at which my wheels start to spin and it's not helpful, and I need to bring myself down, okay? So one way that this model can be useful is understanding how you approach conflict, stress, anxiety, and conflict. The other way, obviously, is to understand how another person experiences stress, anxiety, and conflict. For example, if I'm an overfunctioning blamer over here, and you're an overfunctioning distancer, or an underfunctioning distancer on this end, if we don't understand each other, you're going to be overwhelmed by my intensity, and I'm going to think that you're disrespecting the importance of this issue by your need to distance. But once we understand each other, I can understand, okay, you need a little time and space to get your head around this thing. Okay, as long as we come back to it, I'm cool. And you can understand, okay, Matt's just not an idiot. It's just this issue is really important to him, and we can find a way to come together. Stephen Covey said, seek first to understand, then to be understood. I love that little model because I think it helps me understand myself and me understand how other people may be approaching a situation so that we can come together and work it out. I think it's true in families too, that everybody has their own style, their own way of approaching it. If we don't work to understand each other's approach, we're going to be in these crazy attack and avoid patterns of interaction that are just not productive and not necessary. Because if we understand each other, then me, the overfunctioning blamer, can say, hey, cool, I understand that you need a minute. Take the time that you need. We'll come back to this in an hour. The underfunctioning distancer can say, listen, I know this is really important to you. Give me an hour. We'll come back. You see what I mean? So again, I think Harriet Lerner's work is brilliant. I love her. I'm going to get that book, Marriage Rules. Distancers, underfunctioners, pursuers, overfunctioners, and blamers. You can be anywhere on the continuum. I guess you could even say in different situations, I'm in different places. But again, I offer that just as a little tool for awareness. I hope it's helpful. Later in the week, assuming nothing big happens that we have to deal with, probably on Thursday, I'm going to have a big ask of you guys. I'm going to put a big question out there for you guys to give me feedback. Hope everything's going well. Love you, miss you. Yes, I know. Stay strong, stay calm, stay kind. No Bulldog stands alone. We got this thing, guys. Be good.